Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Advancing Consciousness Podcast. Today is episode 5, and we're going to be hitting something key and instrumental, specifically now with everything that we are going through. We're going to look at how hatred, judgment, and any form of comparison on top of any area of beliefs, perceptions, and ideas that we hold on, and how it affects our level of clarity and our accessibility on seeing a bigger picture and to utilize it for our own navigation. So stay tuned to today's episode. So welcome, and let's play today on the whole idea of hatred, judgment, comparison. Now, this applies on most levels of our experience in life. And you've probably heard this very much in different ways, but not really realizing how much it affects what you actually see from a bigger perspective, and also even having any form of clarity of what we are experiencing, what we are seeing, and what is even being presented to us as an option. Many of us are saying, well, we want to have our own preference on the choices we make, the directions we go, what we do and don't do. And many of us are calling forth for a level of clarity in our lives, but not realizing that if we are focusing very heavily in any way, shape, or form in having any form of hatred about anything or anyone, or judgment about anything or anyone, including yourself, or any form of comparison, that has a huge impact on how much clarity we have, what we can actually see, and it really narrows down so small or focuses to an area where we're not actually seeing all the possibilities, or at least a higher spectrum of possibilities and even options on what directions to take, how to actually have a better idea of what preference you would have. Now, what instigated all of this is somewhat related to the elections and political, let's use those words, political environment that's happening on. But that was only a small fraction of what really is taking place. Now, on the political front, of course, we start to get into adopting ideas of how to see someone, or what is even offered as a possibility, or even what is being offered as something that would either harmonize with our feelings or a higher aspect of ourselves or not. Because if we have hatred for someone, if we have judgment for someone, or we're comparing them with some idea of someone else or some idea that you may have, but most of the thing we have to understand, a lot of these ideas are not even ours. They are programmed into us by either media, and that can be mainstream media, social media, or something of that nature, which actually programs us to see things a certain way. It also creates certain levels of filters so that we're not actually seeing the big picture. We're not actually seeing all the offerings, because automatically we react, automatically we judge, automatically we compare, and we don't allow what is there in front of us from a expanded perspective to be there and seen in clarity. So that actually does not allow us to access that clarity. But this applies beyond that. We are also looking at ourselves, say in a relationship or a connection or friendship or partnership, or even anything else that we get involved in. If we have a preconceived idea of what's good, bad, right, wrong, or anything of that nature, If we have a perception that this is the only way, or the fact this is correct way of looking at it, then we're not going to see the whole thing. We're only going to see it through those filters, or are we going to just block out most of what is there and only focus on certain parts of it, which doesn't give us the opportunity to see the big picture and to have a deeper understanding what's there, and then use our own way of guidance or our own way of choosing what best serves us. For example, if we're looking at, say, a relationship, if we have a preconceived idea of someone, of how they have been, say with somebody else, or from a past experience, or the fact that you're just watching their interaction to a certain way. Now, instead of seeing them as another aspect of you, as an expanded individual, and just kind of see how all of what is being represented may play out and what preference you may have in your level of interactions. But if you're going in with those locked in ideas and concepts and so forth, it really limits our capacity to actually see the bigger picture of it. And this applies to ourselves also. If we have a preconceived idea of who we are, in the sense of our experiences or stories that we've heard from somebody, or the fact that, certain judgments, labels, or anything else that we've applied to, say, ourselves, to our experiences, or to any part of our journey. The other thing is, we also add labels, perceptions, and comparisons based on what we watch other people do, or what the mainstream or any form of advertising or anybody else that's sharing their opinions. And if we start using that as a comparison, if we start using that as a norm, and then we compare ourselves to that, it taints our view of ourselves. And this impacts us in a great deal, because when we bring in the level of clarity, clarity does not have judgment. Clarity does not have comparison. Clarity does not have an emotional charge of it as right, wrong, good, bad, or that this is acceptable, this is not acceptable. When you see things just on face value, without any preconceived belief system, idea, or concept to it, when you have no emotional charge to it, you now could see it for its level of clarity. What's happened? There are times that certain people play a specific role towards you, with you, or engage with you. Now, if we have a preconceived idea, this is good, bad, right, wrong, we may label their actions a certain way, and then we go forward to label them as someone to stay away from. But at the same time, we may take some of what they've shared or played the role, and we label ourselves from it. We don't get to see the bigger picture. And what is the bigger picture? The bigger picture is they're playing a role. First and foremost, we have to understand they are representing that particular role. Now, that role is only representing because in some way, some form, we've kind of agreed to have that entanglement or that dance with each other, and in most cases have given them the opportunity to be able to express a certain way so that we would have a certain experience. Why would that take place? Well, it would take place because somehow we wanted to bring forth within ourselves some clarity, or to expose some form of program or default or something of that nature that we have, or a version of ourselves that we want to bring forth so that we can actually see it and go through the process of disassembling it, clearing it, and letting it go. Because we have made from a deeper knowing aspect that is an opportunity for us to bring forth this, because it no longer serves us, it does impede us, and it does shape our life, but at the same time impedes or reduces our capacities, our capabilities, our levels of clarity, and also our options. See, we are expanding. Through expansion, we end up using from a higher perspective a preference that best guide us to become a grander aspect of ourselves, not to refer to a smaller aspect of ourselves that we may have experienced through our life stream. Now, those limitations, those experiences that we had at that point in time was necessary for us to be more expanded, to be able to be having particular experiences, polarized and otherwise, at that point in time to be able to somehow enhance something that we wanted to experience. There's an absolute perfection in all of that. And in that absolute perfection, it gave us a broader level of experience. Now, of course, because we're dancing and playing with what we call the artificial intelligence as the ego will label it. Now, that label can be used temporarily. The definitions around that can be used temporarily. But the thing is, as you're moving forward, those labels do not apply and should never apply really any longer beyond that point of that experience. That's how we play in fluidity, and how we actually move forward in a grander aspect. For us to have a variety of experiences and for us to have newness and for us to be able to use new levels of expansion, creation, and so forth, you cannot carry any of those labels. And this is one of the reasons we've been going through all these purging and processes of clearing out all of our labels, definitions, any alignments or what we have labeled as part of our experience, and use that as even including an emotional charge as something that has been navigating. Now, of course, we're going through a process where we are using our capacities to be living in the moment, to create and experience each moment brand new. And in those moments, we are able to create a new level of next moment, or what we can call future. But the future doesn't extend forward because you don't want to project too far forward in the future, because at this point in time, you want to be current, and your current allows you not only to experience the moment, but also each moment you're expanding in consciousness, you're expanding on all levels, so that what's experienced now will create a different moment than you would have if you did it 10 moments ago or even a day ago or anything of that nature. So part of the process that we're going now is we're clearing out all of our past so that we can be current, live in the moment, and utilize our deepest, most expanded aspects of ourselves at this time, which gives us the opportunity to be fully present in our creation of this moment, to be able to see things very clearly and then move forward from that. Now, of course, if we're holding any judgment, any comparison, any hatred about ourselves, our experiences, or anyone else, then we are limiting ourselves. We're basically cutting ourselves off to clarity. So now a lot of people are saying, well, I would like to have clarity so I can better, more efficiently navigate through my journey of life. Well, the one way to do it, besides clearing out all your programs, belief systems, perceptions, and adopted ideas, labels, and so forth that we had, including any emotional charges, but any judgments and hatreds and comparisons, but to carry none of it presently in this moment, and to live in this moment in a state of neutrality. See, in neutrality, you see and access more clarity. Neutrality equals more clarity. Neutrality provides us the opportunity to see a bigger picture. In neutrality, you see every form of experience that you've had as a grand opportunity to prepare you and to bring you where you are today, and to use that to move forward. You're not going to be attached to anything that may have played out, or any judgment or idea that you had with anyone or anything. A lot of times people have a difficult time letting go of their past experiences or what anybody's played in their role. For example, you may have had an interactions with, say, certain family members. Could be your actual parents, could be siblings, and so forth. And we carry that experience in its label, in its what we call, definitions. But again, those labels and definitions, in most cases, are ego-based. first and foremost. Second of all, those are from a collective perspective, or what someone else has shared, or groups of people have shared, or the medias have shared, or education have shared as good, bad, right, wrong, what acceptable, not acceptable, and so forth. Are they actually yours? That's the first thing we have to look at. Are they yours? Is it something that you are seeing in clarity rather than something that has been adopted? Because we have had uh, how can I say, the experience of adopting a lot of other people's collective perceptions, ideas, and concepts about anything and everything. And this is one of the reasons that education is so impactful in our life, because we adopt so many belief systems and ideas that were just kind of handed down. Now, they may have served at one point or another. They may have in some way created some norm, but really that's not where we're at. Not now, and not anywhere in the future. Even a lot of that started to change some 35 or more years ago. Many of us have had a difficult time letting all that stuff go, and we have been holding all of that or part of that within our reality. So when people say, I'd like to navigate with the highest level of clarity and to be able to experience each moment in the most expanded way, and to be in our most powerful creator mode, to use our creativity, our imagination in the most current and powerful way, then you need to be fully present, first and foremost. Second of all, to access that clarity, you cannot carry any judgment, any comparison, any emotional charges, hatred, or anything about anything. Because in that case, then you see everything for what it is. A beautiful dance that you've had the opportunity to orchestrate, you've had the opportunity to experience, you've had opportunities to get lost in it and now unravel from it. But now you're in that grander potentiality. Because if somebody says to you, I want to be in the highest potentiality, or you have said it to yourself, and we all do it to some degree, I want to have the highest potentiality, I want to be completely free to use my own preference. Well, the only way you can truly access all of that is not to have any of this other stuff active within yourself. And that's the part that we were talking about, all of these ideas, concepts, and so forth that play out where, we have this stuff that we're taking in from previous experience, previous observations, and so forth, or adoptions that we have taken on. So to bring it back to the political part at this point in time, I've heard many people having pretty strong emotional charges, pretty strong judgments, and pretty strong ideas about particular individuals that are potential options as leaders moving forward, say in our Western world, most focusedly in the USA. And what happens is, because the media is a machine, and then each other are convincing that one's good, one's bad, one's done this, one's not done this, and so forth, that it becomes a very powerful influence within ourselves. But is what you believe about an individual or anything else really a clear observation that you are making from a neutral standpoint, from an observer standpoint, from seeing what the offerings are without having those filters, layers, or definitions that may be hatred-based, may be judgment-based, maybe comparison-based, maybe through other people's eyes or collective eyes or propaganda eyes or propaganda agendas or anything of that nature. So from my observation and from what I've experienced myself and have helped many, many people over the years, is that when you actually drop all of that and just see the offerings for what it is, in absolute clarity as the observer, then you can see the offerings. But not only that, you see the individuals for what they are and what they're actually saying, because they are saying much more than through the filters that we have been imposed on. But not only that, you get to sense their energy, their genuineness of themselves, what they're actually proposing, and then you can see how much of that is an alignment with you. And this applies through that. It applies with any interactions with anybody, interactions with yourself. It applies with interactions with anything that you're going to do. Because when you can observe it in that level of clarity, because you're not going in with any preconceived idea or anybody else's storyline, then you can actually see it. Because when you don't have any of that, and this is what I find, if I feel emotionally charged about anyone or anything, and that can be anything that's even playing out in your life currently, you don't see the bigger picture. You do not see the clarity. You do not see all the multiple options that are there. You cannot access your creativity or imagination, how you could utilize it and navigate through it or transform it or change it in any way, shape, or form. Because that all of that impedes. But if you put it in that point and say, okay, let me observe my life. Let me observe what my options are. Let me observe these playmates that are being presented. Let me observe this potential relationship. Now, when you see it in that clarity, you're involving more of yourself. First of all, you're involving the intuitiveness of your body. It's innate intuitiveness. It's innate consciousness, because it can see it much more clearly. Now, if there's an emotional charge of it, you want to make sure you don't have that part of it. Then comes the gut feel, which is basically the input, the consciousness, the awareness from your human entity. That is referred to as your gut feel. When you're talking about the next level, which is the higher aspect of yourself, now you can access what you call your heart perspective, your soul perspective. That gives you even much more expanded. On top of that, you want to utilize all three. But all three cannot be utilized if you compartmentalize it, if you are creating and still holding all those preconceived ideas. So you want to connect on all aspects of it. Your mind is a powerful computer that is actually receiving not only inputs from your body, from your human entity, your soul, it's also getting input from your third eye. Now, the third eye connects with many, many different souls that are not in your soul family, but are other souls that we are interacting, say, on this playground and possibly on other playgrounds, and sometimes from our our extended connections that we may have established, say as guides, say as angelic realms, or as established connections that we may have with other beings that are from other dimensions, that we have a strong connection. We have all of those inputs coming in. So you have 4 sources coming in. Those 4 sources are streamed into your right brain, and your right brain deciphers all of that and then projects it into your left brain, which gives you the analytical part, the part that you can see and express and experience itself in form and within what looks like form around you as reality. It also interfaces, interconnects, and also becomes a powerful interactor or connection and instructor of the playmates that get involved in the dance, or the fact that you invite in your dance of interactions that you choose to have. And also how the environment around you responds accordingly. So by doing that, by accessing all those levels of clarity, then you actually could see a grander perspective, and you best navigate with more ease while creating the most current state. Now, when you're also tuning to the heart, your heart is connected, yes, to your soul, but it's also connected very closely to your twin soul. That is the soul that has the exact signature as yours, that may be embodied in a different physicality on this realm or another realm or another playground, for example. Could be also in non-form, that has had many of experiences, and that connection is there, but it doesn't stop there. You also, through the soul, you have connection to your oversoul. Your oversoul is also considered what you can call your soul family. Your soul family is made up of 22 other souls that are embodied in non-form, and sometimes non-form, let's call it that, on other realms, and they also are contributing different levels of consciousness and experiences. Of course, you don't take it in its raw form, you utilize it, you have your own capability to shape it and to utilize it for your perspective, your opportunity on this playground. So you have a lot of inputs. However, you can reduce that accessibility, all levels of accessibility to your innate consciousness of your body, your gut feel coming from your human entity, from your soul, from your third eye, very powerfully. If you are very opinionated, very closed-minded, very emotionally charged about anyone or anything, doesn't matter what it is. So if you're getting into hatred, you're getting into comparison, you're getting into judgment, that impedes it. And if you're so caught up in certain strong beliefs or fears or concepts or ideas or trauma or anything of that nature, because again, you're hanging on to certain labels and experiences and definitions, then the level of clarity is reduced tremendously. And sometimes the clarity is so minuscule that you feel that you're just a bundle of conditioned response, and then you're also run by the ego only. So it becomes very important to drop all of those parts, so that the more you drop out of not only your past labels, definitions, and so forth, emotional charges, any form of comparison, judgment, and so forth, hatred, anger, fears, and any of that stuff, then what happens, you access more clarity. Now, this also applies to how you feel about yourself personally, and you want to drop those things, because then you can see yourself for the grander aspect that you are. Because from those label perspective, you're just a human that made possibly many mistakes or poor choices, or that is compromised or is limited or anything of that nature. But when you don't have any of that stuff, because you've dropped it, cleared it, first you acknowledged it, you appreciated its capacities, what you've learned from it, and the experience you gained from it, and where it brought you up to this point in time, and then blasted with love because it was such absolute perfection that you have created and utilized, then you can drop it. You can just put it into the field around you as the energies that is around you, and then you can access more of that clarity. And this is the reason I wanted to cover this today, because a lot of people are having challenges connecting with their clarity or seeing the bigger picture, because they've put a lot of focus. Now, the one thing that comes into place is a lot of times we see ourselves less of an authority, and then you put other people in authority figures. Now, that does not mean you can't access anybody else's knowing and so forth, like I'm sharing right now. I'm sharing this so it triggers your own memory, your own accessibility, and so forth. I'm not authority over you. I'm sharing some powerful experiences and expressions that, I've gained through my journey of life and my observation, and coming from a higher perspective, to just really allow you to be able to do the same. We all have the same capacities. We're just kind of stimulating each other to remind ourselves, and to also trigger within ourselves that capacity. So don't make anyone authority, but utilize what they have to share when it feels completely in alignment. Then utilize it, because you are your own authority. You are your own navigator. You are your own designer of your life. You are ultimately the creator. You're your own creation. You're the observer of creation. You are infinite. You're immortal. You are source. You are the very essence of all existence. You're a projected aspect of that within that same field, to have something that looks like separate with a specific signature so that you can have a different variance of experiences. And that's all. It does not minimize you in any way. And when somebody says it's an advanced soul, it's just souls that have come in with many, many layers, and through the different experiences have removed a lot of those layers and have access more of their knowing, which we all have, but it depends how many veils and layers that we've put on, or veils if you want to call it that, or filters, that we've just have more of that access, and we can apply those accesses in our creation and our experience of life. And that's why we would say it's an old soul or an advanced soul or anything of that nature. So we all go to the same place. We are all from the same place. We are all within the same place, or the same field of energy. And that field of energy is what is referred to as source. Some people refer it as God, but basically it's source, which is pure consciousness, pure potentiality, pure expanded creation. And this is what we've done. We're part of that. What we're doing is we're creating playgrounds. We're creating a representation or a vehicle, what looks like a vehicle to play in those playgrounds, because everything is a holographic expression after all. And through this holographic expression, we're experiencing ourselves that looks like that we're outside of the field, but we are a part of the field, because there's nothing outside of the field. Everything is within the field, and we never leave anywhere. We're just creating realities within the field. And that's what we're doing. So for us, because we have chosen to participate in a very powerful way with all these transformations that are going on right now. You chose to be here. You staged your whole life, and you feel right now it's really, really, really important for you to really utilize the grandest aspect of yourself, and to utilize it in such a fashion that you are able to do something powerfully amazing, and to really to be able to use higher levels of consciousness. Because when you're truly in your organic 3D, operating within the organic matrix, which is very different than the inverted 3D and 2D and inverted matrix, those platforms to be utilized, you will require further clarity, further access of who you are, so that you can navigate and create in that organic 3D and organic 5D. Because in the inverted 3D, you use very minimal amount, and it's pretty well in reverse. So it's kind of looks very confusing in a sense. That was a good experience too. 2D, you have no access pretty well. It's almost like zero, but not quite zero, because you have to have some. But it's very, very low. And the inverted matrix doesn't let us see that. So many of us are saying, well, the two platforms that we're on, organic 3D and organic 5D, with the potentiality utilizing even higher dimensional consciousness while having these experiences, and we're choosing to expand accordingly, then, you're going to require further access to your own clarity, to your own knowingness that you are a powerful source being. And to use it to the degree it serves you. You're not here to access all of it at once in any way, shape, or form. You're just accessing more of it, applying it in your creation, applying it in your experience, and that upgrades the human experience and upgrades our world. So this is why it's important. So when we go back to looking at any decisions you're going to make, any choices, and to live your life accordingly, you really want to be in the most clearest 0-point neutrality state, because then your options are huge, your potentiality is massive, you're accessing higher consciousness, and you can shape things without the same borders, restrictions, and limits that you may have experienced before. And that is huge. And it's huge because it's something that actually facilitates you specifically now. Now, that's always been available as a powerful opportunity, but what we are now realizing, that because of the fast track that we're on and how things are moving forward in a very powerful way, that the necessity for that level of functionality is more important than ever before. And right now, with all that's unfolding on the planet and within ourselves, it is being very instrumental, even though it's tossing us left, right, and center in every direction at this point, to kind of stimulate some pretty powerful intensities for us, that it is there serving us to move forward in a very powerful way. And what better way to access not only your higher aspects of yourself, but the levels of clarity that is available. So it's really important to drop all of that stuff. So hopefully that this gives you some clarity and gives you the opportunity to look at any emotional charges, hatreds, judgments, perceptions that you have, because it does affect how you see things and how you can better navigate. So utilize this information for your own use. Let it resonate to the degree it does for you. Apply it in your experience moving forward, and then see the grandness that you will continue to expand even further than what you've expanded at this point in time. This is all the beauty of all of it that is playing out at this point in time. So thank you for this episode, for being part of it, and please share it with as many people as possible. In the YouTube channel, please subscribe and click the notification bell. That way you will get an announcement or a notification that a new episode is out. There will be a new episode every single day with different topics and subjects, and also addressing people's questions to support you along the way. If you are on Facebook, you can go, if you're not on the Facebook group, you can go to Advancing Consciousness Podcast Facebook group, and you can join the group. And then you will also be notified as other episodes come in, which again will be one per day. We're also available on, at this point, Podbean, Spotify, I think it's iTunes, but I think they just changed it to Apple Podcasts or something of that nature, and several other platforms along the way. So you can join us there. We're also available on Advancing Consciousness Podcast on Vimeo if you choose to use Vimeo. We do also stream it on several other platforms, or at least put the accessibility to other platforms. So please share it. Below you'll have some links if you want to join the community, which will provide you emails time to time to let you know of different interviews and things that are coming up, including the workshop that's coming up on the 5th of December of 2020, and also all the workshops that we have done previously, which go back some of it about a month ago and some a few months ago. They're all different topics, very inexpensive tools for you and powerful tools for you. They're available in video and audio recordings, and you will have permanent access to that if you choose to register for that. Again, I thank for anybody that has supported us, all the people that have supported us along the way with Advancing Consciousness series, and now with Advancing Consciousness podcast. We will have a link if you would like to, if this all resonates with you and you'd like to support our work, you can click the link and you can support us financially to be able to continue putting out content on a daily basis, so that we can focus on exploring new topics, subjects, and so forth, and doing all the work and keeping the platforms up too at the same time, and then also to support ourselves accordingly. So thank you again, and we'll see you on the next episode. Until then, go have a blast and go out and play.